Welcome to this Fox News video exclusive, foxnews.com video exclusive from the Republican Convention. We're joined now by Shelby Holliday, who is the Wall Street Journal senior video reporter. Shelby, let's get right to the news.
Yep.
An anti-Trump attempt at a coup on the first day of the convention. It failed, but what a show.
What a show, and it really showed how divisive this party is. The Wall Street Journal just came out with a poll. Only 13% of Republicans think the party is unified right now. A majority of Republicans would prefer a different candidate. So it really just shows how fractured the party is, how there's this, we've seen this anti-Trump movement flare up from the very beginning of the primaries, actually. A lot of people compared the race to a marathon. I say it was more like American Ninja Warrior. There were just so many hurdles, so many obstacles. So while this was a really ugly, messy floor fight, it also was a significant hurdle for Donald Trump to clear. It was essentially his last obstacle to overcome on this nomination process. He'll definitely face more, facing Hillary Clinton in the general, but that was a significant moment. He is now the nominee, and that was kind of their last straw. I don't think they have
here's the thing,
any
Shelby.
other...
I thought it was done. I thought the dump Trump effort had been defeated, and that you wouldn't have that kind of exhibition of displeasure with Trump at the convention and leading the news today.
It's embarrassing, but that is how adamantly opposed some of the delegates are. A lot of them are Cruz supporters. They wanted to vote. They wanted a conscience clause so that they weren't bound to vote for Trump, even though their state voted for Trump.
Right.
That's just not how the process works. I think ultimately the majority of delegates said those weren't the rules. We don't want to change them last minute, although you can. It's not fair. And yeah, they really got squashed today. But it does illustrate how ugly and messy this is. I will point out, something similar happened in 2012. Mitt Romney and his crew wanted to push Rule 40B. Not to get into the nitty-gritty details, but that was a very controversial rule, and you heard a lot of nays on the floor when they were voting for rules.
Well, you got to tell us what it was.
Ron Paul fans.
Oh, there it is.
And the rule was you had to win a majority of delegates in at least 8 states to be on the ballot. So that froze Ron Paul out of the convention. That kind of sidelined Ron Paul. So even though Ron Paul wasn't going to win the nomination, all of these people opposed that rule. They had a big nay, messy nay, yay, nay floor fight. And that's common. That's democracy. That's how some of these conventions work. You're not going to get thousands of delegates in one room all supporting one candidate.
I think it was quite a show, though, when you see the people on the floor, the delegates, and notably Ken Cuccinelli, the former Attorney General of Virginia, saying, wait a minute, if this is a voice vote and you can hear people calling for it, and then somehow the chair says, oh, no, you lose, people think that it is being done, to quote Donald Trump.
It was rigged.
Yes, you got it, Shel. That's
and
exactly.
Today it may have been rigged in his favor. It's not uncommon. What it is embarrassing that this is allowed to happen. 2012, now 2016, where you hear an equal amount of yays and nays, at least to the ear when you hear it on video. It sounds like there were enough nays to shut it down. And, the person taking the roll call vote just kind of drops the mic and says, rules are approved. Shoves them down the throat, let's get the convention going. So, is it the best way to deal with business? No. It's going to upset a lot of people, but that's how it's been done, and it's not changing.
Shelby, now you've been at the convention among the delegates. What are the other stories that you think now are emerging?
Well, I think people are starting to get a little more comfortable with the security aspects surrounding the convention. A lot of people were really worried about terrorism. They still are, but we have seen now day one, fewer people were there protesting than originally thought. There was a pro-gun rally that 2 people showed up to. So I think they're feeling a little more comfortable physically being here. There are just a lot of question marks hanging over this convention. A lot of people are curious to hear what Melania Trump has to say, what some of the family members are going to say. There's also the awkward element of who's not here. We don't have any Bushes. We don't have Marco Rubio. We don't have John Kasich, the governor. It's unthinkable.
Right.
And there are still people who are wondering if he's going to show up. Will he change his mind?
People wondering if Ted Cruz will speak.
Right, and what he'll speak about. He said that Donald Trump didn't mandate a copy of his speech. So, lots of question marks. It could get a little awkward.
Yeah.
Lion Ted. If Ted's such a liar, what's he going to talk about that Donald Trump fans will... I'm not sure. There's just so many awkward elements to this. But I do sense a lot of excitement at the same time. I don't want to harp on all the negatives. There are a lot of people who are extremely excited to be here. They're all decked out in their American
without a
flag
doubt.
uniforms.
Look, I don't think there's any question. And long lines to get into the queue.
Security is intense.
Security is intense. Now, let me just come back to one quick point, which is, again, breaking news here at the convention early Monday evening. Sheldon Adelson, casino magnate, big Republican supporter from Las Vegas.
Yes.
He's making news. Tell us about it.
He's making news because to throw a convention like this, you have to raise millions and millions of dollars. $64 million is the amount that the host committee and the RNC had to raise for this huge 4-day event. So there was a shortfall. That's not uncommon. The host committee had to raise $6 million more. But what was newsworthy about it is they reached out to Sheldon Adelson to say, hey, can you fill this gap? Because this gap exists due to the negative press surrounding Donald Trump. Corporations have backed out.
Right.
We've seen a lot of huge companies like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, FedEx. They are not pledging millions of dollars like they usually do. Now, those companies came back and said, wait a second, we didn't actually make a pledge, so we're not backing out technically. But still, it really goes to show that Donald Trump has hurt the convention process in one way or another.
But the news was
blamed for
that Sheldon Adelson, when the party or the Republican National Committee went to him and asked for help, instead of helping, what did he do?
Well, Politico got the letter somehow, so it seems like he sent it out to the press. It was leaked to the press. And he didn't donate the $6 million. Paul Manafort later on went on to say, if he's going to give $6 million, we'd rather just have him give it to the campaign. So it was a bit of an awkward mess. They're still working on raising the last few $1 million. But I talked to some of the hosts, the chairs of the host committee today, and they said, it's not that uncommon. They're completely confident they can do it. And hopefully, if everything goes well here, it won't be a problem to snap up a few million.
Let's talk about the star of Monday night's events, and that is Mrs. Trump, Melania Trump. So
she's talking for 5 whole minutes.
That's it?
According to the schedule.
That's it?
We'll see, but that's what the schedule says.
Wow, because Ann Romney spoke at length at the last Republican convention.
Yeah, well, she hasn't spoken much throughout the campaign.
Mrs. Trump.
Mrs. Trump. She's much more comfortable being a sideline cheerleader, totally stands by her husband. She has played a prominent role. She's been visible. She just doesn't speak very much. So she is expected to speak tonight. A lot of people are wondering what she'll talk about. But there are also some analysts who say her main role is just to be there and show that Donald Trump's not anti-immigrant, because she is actually an immigrant who came here legally, and to show support and shine a more personal light on Donald Trump as a candidate and a human, which a lot of people, they don't see that side of him. They see his family, but they don't necessarily see him as a family man.
I have a frivolous question, Shelby.
Yes.
But I think it's a question on America's mind. Any idea what she'll be wearing?
Something that's very good looking, I'm sure, and very expensive.
She's a beautiful woman, but I'm saying, do you think it's almost a representation of glamour, the Trump brand, in having this unusually beautiful? I mean, she's like a supermodel.
She's unusually beautiful. You know, one of my ideas I actually wanted to do was, and this was just a huge moonshot, but I would love to follow her around for the day, see how she gets ready, see how she prepares. Is she memorizing a speech? Is she reading prompter? I would love some hair tricks and tips from her, from her people. I think she will look amazing, as she usually does, but I will be really curious to see. There's usually a lot of attention placed on, if you can remember with Sarah Palin, how much these outfits cost, how long it took them to get ready. Usually it's seen as very narcissistic, but since Melania has lived that life for so long, I'm curious to see if people will even care.
Well, it's not only the matter of narcissism. A lot of people think it's sexist that you and I are having this conversation as opposed to discussing the content of her message. But we don't know the content of her message.
We don't know the content.
And, you know, with a lot of women who, you know, are potentially the First Lady, they make it very clear that they would champion one cause or another. So far, we haven't heard that from her.
No, we don't know. I think you're right. What do you think she's going to say tonight?
Well, I know I heard her once in Milwaukee, and what she said was that Donald Trump is smart, tough, great negotiator, a kind man, good father, good husband. It was as if she was giving testimony to his character.
Right.
And I suspect that we'll see some of that. One last question on Melania Trump. The accent. How will America react?
I'm not sure. We know she has it. We've heard from her before. But I don't know. I think she paints a really interesting picture for a man who's looked at as anti-immigrant, as you know, his slogan is America First, close off our borders, keep people out. I think it'll be really interesting to see if she can change anyone's mind and that he's open to immigrants coming to the U.S. He's open to a success story. Like you said, we don't know what she's going to talk about. I'm really curious to see what the overall message is and how many minutes she speaks for.
All right.
So,
Shelby Holliday, Wall Street Journal senior video reporter. Thank you for joining us here at the Republican National Convention. We're all looking forward to seeing what Melania Trump has to say.